Welcome to the Purity Pulse podcast, your go-to podcast for the natural health industry and everything Purity Life. I'm Erin Macklin.
And I'm Julie Drapeau.
And today we're going to go through our regular weekly check-ins. We're going to have a fun interview with Margot Thompson, who is a certified executive coach at OrgHealth. We're going to go through some of the Working Genius framework, which would be fun, near and dear to both of our hearts.
Absolutely.
And then we'll finish up with some new to Purity Life. We are going into a bit of a busy time here.
Yes, travel,
Yeah.
trade show periods, and Anaheim
And
is upon
Anaheim,
us.
yes, Expo
Yes.
West.
Yes, we're very excited to leave winter. No, it's a joke. I love winter. We love Anaheim because that's where we see a lot of trends and what's coming. And a lot of the brands that we distribute have their new products that they show that they will come and bring to us in Canada later on.
Yeah.
The big goal.
Just for a little bit of context for the listeners. So Expo West for us is something that a big team from Purity Life goes to every year.
Absolutely.
And it's a very large trade show that pulls in brands from across US.
Yes.
I'm trying to think of how to give it a bit of a size context.
We always say it doesn't give size, but we just basically say it's a CHFA on steroid.
Yeah.
But it's basically, if you think about a hotel, they have hotel beside the trade show, which the trade show is, I would say, 5 times more than CHFA Toronto?
I'd say at least.
It's more than
at
that.
least, yeah. It's hall after hall after hall of brand after brand after brand. It's overwhelming. I mean, it's huge.
Yes.
But it's also really cool, yeah.
It
So
is.
go into a little bit more about that.
Yes, and they have outside of that because they expanded so much, especially food has grown a lot through the year. They have to rent the hotels that are beside to have rooms with products, right?
I forgot about that.
And they also have their day before where they showcase all the new products, what to watch, so trends. So we typically go, as you mentioned, a bunch of us from Purity. So there's purchasing, you would have marketing that is there, sales is there as well, and also our category management team to look for new brands.
Yeah.
So a lot of our work at that show is to meet with our existing partners. So we meet with them, see what they have new, what's coming, but also to look at our list of what are the trends, what are we missing? So we can bring back to you here in Canada brands that will help to fulfill those needs.
So what's new and upcoming and trendy, and we want to make sure that we're getting all of the best so we can hand it over to our retailer partners.
And come back and create some of a trend stock from that and give you that information. So stay tuned after. Definitely, it's kind of Christmas season for us. It's like, oh my God, we're going to see all the new things. So while it's a big show and we walk, we'll have to come back with how many steps.
Many steps. Many steps.
Exactly. But so is it pretty much the same thing for you right now? You're right into this?
Yep. Get ready. Here we go.
So stay tuned because we'll have lots of follow-up from that show for you. So that's our week.
Thanks so much, Margot, for coming. We're so excited to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're very excited. It's been years that we've been working with you and all the help and that you brought to Purity Life, to us. We definitely wanted to take time to share with people, our listeners, all the tools that you brought to us. And so, but to start, would be great to have a little bit of your professional background and how you got to the group you're working with right now, OrgHealth. So yes, we would like to know a little bit more about how you came to work with the group.
Well, it's sort of a long and meandering story, but I would say I've always been interested in leadership and development. And that has sort of permeated my entire life to date in different ways. So I come from a professional background with Bell Canada. So that was one of the things that really led me to be interested in leadership because no offense to Bell Canada, but there's a lot of flawed leadership out there.
Right.
And there are a lot of leadership practices that are uncomfortable and traditional and not really great for the organizations that they are leading.
So you saw that in action.
I did see that in action. Again, no offense to Bell Canada, but I did see that in action, and I've seen that in many places. Also, I was involved with corporate sales there, so I saw that with client organizations as well.
Right.
So there was a lot of that. And then I have been working with this business, or a version of this business, for the past 15 years. So,
wow, 15 years. And so you transitioned from there, and then you started to be a coach, or how would you describe your role right now?
I would say that I come from a very coaching perspective. So coaching even internally with the company first, and then branching out and coaching with clients.
Yes.
So you weren't always coaching clients.
Not always coaching clients, more operations at one stage, but not for years.
Okay. And could you describe a little bit on what was your work, or what is your work with Purity, what you've been doing? There's a lot.
Big list.
No, you were saying we'd been working together for years, and I mean, that's been my privilege, to be honest. So I have a real heart for Purity. So,
thank you.
The work that we've been doing with Purity, or I would like to say that we're a partner with Purity, and that we walk the walk with Purity. So Purity is very interested in organizational health and becoming as healthy and as productive as possible. So I would like to say that we have partnered with that.
I like that word. Yes.
Yeah.
Because that's basically Margot and the organization has been part of almost our day-to-day language, and that's why we wanted to talk about.
It's framed our language. It's created our language, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned that, at another Bell or other people had issues, well, I think everybody, when you look at your organization, there's some words, and I always remember, because we discuss about that often, talking about being vulnerable and trust. Trust is a key word.
Trust is the
for
one.
you.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
And we smile because, yes, we definitely worked on that. And sometimes in an organization, you think that there is trust, but it's lacking. And so we've worked a lot at Purity to have that language down to different levels.
Yeah.
So that was one of the work, but we invited you today to talk about more of
the working genius.
Yes.
Yes. So how would you maybe define working genius? I mean, we've obviously spoken about having a chance to use it and apply it.
Yes.
But just on a basic level, how would you kind of explain
the types.
Yeah. Well, even just what it is, like how the framework that it is.
So Working Genius Framework is the brainchild of Pat Lencioni at the Table Group. It is designed to allow people to work in their genius. So it's defined as 6 different geniuses, and they're all an essential piece of any project or initiative. So putting people... We talk a lot, business leaders talk a lot about getting the right people on the bus. And what this is more about is getting the people on the bus in the right seats.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So there's 6 different types.
There are 6 different types, and it sort of goes in a flow.
Yeah.
So would you like me to describe the types?
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's the acronym WIDGET, and I think that just sort of happened for them, but it starts with wonder.
Yeah.
Wonder is the lens that you look through to figure out where you need to go. So it's the first one. So at the start of any project or initiative, you'd start with wonder. Wonder people are looking at what should we be doing? What do we need to do? What's not working for us now?
Right.
What lens do we need to look through to figure out where we need to go next? A lot of why too.
Right.
We have a dear wonder sitting
Yay,
right beside
I
us.
like to wonder. It's
I
near and dear to
wonder,
my
Julie,
heart.
if we should think about this.
It's funny because as you're learning about them, especially as you're learning about this type, and it's titled Wonder, but immediately all of a sudden you start to realize, I used the word wonder.
Wonder,
a
word,
lot.
wonder,
And every
yeah.
time I'm like, oh yeah, okay, that is fitting.
And we smile now when
Yes.
when Erin is in front and she's, I wonder, and then
Yeah.
we'll look at each other like, yeah.
It's a thing.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the first
step.
That's where you start. So once you have that sort of big picture, where do we need to go, you move to the second one, which is invention. So people who have the genius of invention are the fountain of ideas. They're coming up with the new ideas. What could we do next? What would work here? What ideas do we have? Innovators, brainstormers.
Right.
Yes.
That piece.
I have an idea.
creators.
Yeah, and we all know who has that
Right.
genius.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, a little bit of that. Yeah, I do
Like a
catch
fountain.
myself. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, again, like Erin and I work together, of course, and when she comes in my office, and I have an idea. And she's looking at me and like, yeah, okay, another one idea of the many that will be. But it's...
Well, and it's funny because that brings us very quickly to what the next
Yes.
type is.
So after you've got all of these ideas out on the table, we move to discernment. So
Yeah.
discernment can be misunderstood. As Lencioni's group describes it, it is a intuitive knowing through recognition of patterns and sort of lifting up the layers, looking and examining and analyzing, but on an intuitive level, not on a linear, fact-based level
Yes.
of which one of the decisions would be either the best one or the most workable or the one that you could refine to
Right.
become workable.
So that's when you hear, I have a feeling, or my gut feeling tells me, and they typically don't like to be told, well, prove it.
Typically not. Typically not. There are certain types who will always say,
Yeah,
prove it.
yeah, yes.
But that's the thing with discernment, and that's
Yeah.
why it's widely misunderstood, is it's not analytical proof.
Right.
It is intuition.
Intuition.
More.
So kind of being able to look at that flow of invention, here's all of the invention, and being able to kind of pick, okay, this is the winner. This is where
the one.
this is what we can roll
Right.
with.
Right. Which then segs into the next one. So once you've actually decided on which idea is the most workable or which one can we refine to be the best for us,
Right.
then you have to get everybody on board. So that's galvanizing.
Right.
So that genius of galvanizing,
This is our galvanizer.
this is her other genius. These people with this genius, they rally people. They get people excited. They inspire. They motivate. They get everybody on board with the idea. So if you don't have everybody on board with the idea, then obviously you're going to be working
Yeah.
at a different level than if
Yes.
you have everybody excited about it and bought into it.
So this is the one that's saying, get on the bus, let's go, get
Right.
on the
Yes.
bus.
I have an idea and
Exactly.
it's fun.
It's gonna
Believe
be
me.
great.
I'm telling you, it's
gonna
going to
be
happen.
so good.
It's like an internal on all the time. It's like
Did you
excited.
see how
about
she
it.
just moved from her idea to galvanizing and she skipped discernment?
I know, and we'll talk about that later because that's that is the challenge. It's
Right.
not skipping because it's so important. Every portion,
Every bit of it.
every
Right.
bit is important to that, and that order. To make sure that an
Right.
idea or process or anything is done the right way,
And just a
that's
very
what-
outright recognition of the steps, yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So what about
So
after?
now we've
Yeah.
got everybody galvanized, everybody's excited, they all want to do this idea, they're all bought in. So then we move to enablement. So the people who have the genius of enablement, these are the people who can get things started. So they're able to sort of roll up their sleeves, get obstacles out of the way,
Yeah.
make things possible so that the next steps, like outlining, what are the steps? Where do we need to go? What do we
Right.
need to do? And helping people actually get there. So they love to help people. They're very supportive. They're very
Yeah.
encouraging. Enablement.
Yes.
So once we're at that stage, then we move finally to tenacity, which is exactly like it sounds. These are the finishers of
Yes.
the world. These people love to dot the I's, cross the T's.
Yeah.
They have high standards. They want things to be finished to the standard that it should be at, and they
Right.
want to see whatever project this is or initiative this is impact the world in the way that it's expected
Yeah.
to.
Yeah. And this is fascinating. And again, we wanted to share that with our audience because for us, using the working genius has tremendously changed the way we speak, but how efficient we are. And as an example, like we had a session with Margot not long ago with your team.
Yeah.
And I think that identifying what working in your genius is gives you energy.
Yes.
When you don't work in your genius, you suck the life out of you, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
This is actually something I should be saying about it. This particular assessment, the working genius, is not about what you can do, what you're capable of. I mean, all of us
Yeah.
have all of these pieces in our work.
Yeah.
Every single one of these pieces. They're
Yeah.
all essential. You can't get any project or initiative completed, and you can't have any job that doesn't include all of these pieces.
Yeah.
But really, it's about identifying which one of these pieces or ones of these pieces are the ones that really bring me joy, really bring me energy, that make me want to come and do this all day, every day.
Yeah.
And then which ones are the ones that actually drain my energy, and that if I had to spend all day working in that piece, that I would be going home saying, I can't do that again tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
All my energy is gone.
Yes.
So obviously there are benefits to putting your people in places where they're gaining energy and not losing it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've noticed too, even when we speak about retailers or people we work with, it's good to be able to identify what genius they have too. Because again, when you have a conversation, you can understand each other, and that removes a lot of the, I would say, the grumpy moment, or because you understand how they process things too. So I think you've had in the session, you had some good, realization within the team,
ways
right?
to realize where people are finding their genius and where they're not, and learnings and actions that you can take from that to really sit people in their genius as much as possible, because they're going to be able to do so much more of that with that energy.
Right.
And be able to kind of continue coming at it day after day after day and be happy about it.
Right. I mean, in terms of the way that we deal with each other, with each of these geniuses, I think often geniuses like wonder and discernment in particular can be misunderstood as negative rather than positive.
Right.
So if you're the invention person, for example, and you're coming out with all these new ideas, and idea after idea after idea, and every single time either the wonder person or is saying, wait a minute, that's not even what we need.
Right.
That's not a need that's not met. We don't need that. Or the discernment person is saying, I don't really feel great about that one. I don't know that it's going to work. It can feel like they're squashing your idea.
Yes.
That they're actually literally not listening to your idea and not seeing the benefit in it. Understanding that person is coming from a perspective of either wonder, when you're looking at where do we actually need to go? Where do we need the help? What needs are not being met right now? Or discernment, which is which one's the most workable? And understanding that that's where they're actually bringing the conversation from feels different than thinking your idea is being squashed.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a total other way to look at how there's like a team function together, because and there's different aspect to look that has been like eye-opening for us and so amazing tools. Like the one thing is to understand when you're facing, like I'll give the example, like Erin has wonder and I have invention. So exactly that, right? I come and you have invention too, so we can connect on the bringing ideas, but then when Erin will go into her wonder and start questioning things, and you pair that me with being an invention and galvanizer. So I have the idea and I'm ready to run with it. Yeah. And then Erin is tapping on my shoulder and she says, well, what about this? What about that?
Hang on.
Yeah. Before I was like, I just want to go. You're slowing me down here.
Yeah.
But when you understand the genius, and instead you say, this is great, let's take just a step back.
There's value here.
There's absolute value, because we need to make sure that there's balance, right?
Exactly.
We don't want to stay in wonder forever, because we'll stay in the process of thinking.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we need to evaluate that to start with, to identify the opportunities.
Exactly. And on that topic, for wonder, for example, if you're not looking through the lens of what we actually need, then those ideas can just be all over the place. Like it can be like a scattergun.
You're going down roads you don't even need to be going down.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So it's really the lens that focuses everything on the particular thing that you need.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and there's instance I'm thinking about other instance that we had a project, and then it's time to galvanize, and then you're cheering on, but there's no response at the other end. So I want to talk a little bit about what drains people a little bit. So that's
right, because there's a flip side, right?
Yeah,
so there's your genius, but there's also the frustration. So can you tell us a little bit about that end of the pieces?
For sure. And again, I want to say this assessment isn't about capability. So because it's really ranked, I guess, in terms of what brings you the most joy and energy and what takes more of your joy and energy. So it is not, for example, in myself, I'm low in tenacity.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I can't finish anything, but it does mean that being mired in the weeds and the dotting the I's and the crossing the T's.
Yeah.
Not my favorite thing. And if
Yeah,
I
me
had
neither.
to do that all day, every day, I would be a very sad Margot.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I'll join you there.
Right. So we all have 2 working geniuses, 2 working competencies, and 2 working frustrations.
So of these 6, from the widget, the wonder, invention,
Correct.
discernment, galvanizing, enablement, tenacity, everybody has all of those in one of these 3 kind of sections.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So the places where you have a working genius, you're gaining tons of energy and it's exciting you and you're joyful around that piece of your work.
Right.
If you were stuck in the opposite end in your working frustrations, even though you might be incredibly capable at it, you would still be feeling very drained by it, and
Right.
it would end up making you feel very ultimately resentful if you had to spend all of your time working in
yeah.
your working frustration.
Right.
Absolutely.
And definitely it would be disillusioning and discouraging, and you wouldn't be doing as good a job. Not
Right.
because you couldn't,
Yeah.
but because you're stuck in something that is literally draining all your energy.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that, and we've made change according to those geniuses, and
Yay,
it's
purity.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
all
mean,
in how you
we're
react
all
to
a
it.
testament. We've lived through, and we understand the genius, and we use that language. And I think our teams are also using it. They've been through we'll call it the testing or the assessment would be a better word. But when you move the person closer to their genius, because as you say, there's tasks in your job that you can't be always 100%
Yeah.
in your genius. But if it's 80-20, great.
Right.
But you see the change.
Yeah.
The
And I think a
energy.
big piece of that is kind of where you were going a little bit earlier, is eliminating a lot of the frustration, right? If you're trying to combat this frustration a good portion of your time, then yeah, that can be very difficult and unfulfilling, and you can be in an unhappy place. So I mean, in regards to those frustrations, you were kind of talking a little bit about when, if you're a galvanizer and you're not getting any of that
Yes.
back.
Yes.
So with each of these types, there are this kind of reverse frustration from them, right? Of like things that really can get under your skin, or really just don't build that.
Right.
Yeah, and so the knowledge of that as a tool, again, we're sharing with everybody here because it is so powerful, but it's so simple at the same time to use. There's tons of tests and assessment, but this is, I feel, and we feel that it's a language that has really helped us on the daily, but on the long term as well. And we have so many examples of that, like those frustration as an example, and what you mentioned, that people don't feel as they're diminished if they don't have a certain genius, but they understand that this is not the way I operate. And especially with wonder and discernment, when you're in an environment that is more number and proof and driven and moving, which a lot of companies, I'm sure you've seen that pattern happening, to slow down and going back and taking the time to go through the widget to make sure that you're in that cycle, and making people don't feel that they're a loser or they're not in the right place, right?
Yeah,
It's
and they
important.
talk a lot with Working Genius. They talk a lot about the guilt and frustration that
Yes.
comes out with this sort of thinking. So the idea of, for me,
Yes.
using myself as an example, I am not high in tenacity. But if I'm doing that work and somebody is constantly, saying, oh, this isn't done, or I'm feeling like, oh, I've shifted that off for too long, I'm
Yes.
not happy doing this, I'm miserable doing this, why am I not able to do this? Why do I feel like this? It's very guilt producing, and you start to blame yourself, and you start to think of yourself as less capable or less valuable.
Yes, absolutely.
And equally true, you can see other people judging how you're doing, and you can judge other people.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's a big one too, is you tend to judge people on what your own geniuses are. And I think that's
So
kind
true.
of an eye-opener as well, is the realization that, hey, if enablement or tenacity is not my thing, that might be your thing. And even though I look at that, I'm like, oh, I can't give this to you. This is a terrible job. Like, this is not what I like doing at all. I can't apply that to you, because for you might be like, yes, please. I love to put things across the finish line.
Exactly.
I would love to
Yes.
finish that. And
Yes.
just kind of opening your mind around that possibility as well, I think is a big learning piece.
And that's a big use of this program that we've done is we looked at our team and with your help identifying what's missing.
Yes.
Are we missing geniuses here? And that was one thing. And the other is to say, okay, well, I have galvanizing. I know I can take an idea and run with it and push it and make people follow. While Erin doesn't have that genius. So in instance, we always like talk and we might swap role for a certain, period.
Yeah.
I don't have tenacity. So I have people on my team that do have tenacity. And I know that once the idea is there and we went through everything, I need to pass on the work or ask help at that point in time. So instead of seeing a frustration and for me feeling like, oh, I'm diminishing myself because I don't have tenacity and I really don't feel like I want to finish and put the dots and make it perfect and pretty. I'm asking someone who gets energized by that to work. So that has been fantastic for us. Definitely on that
and this
sense.
is how teams can use it to really work productively together.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that these geniuses are what are natural to us. Like we naturally gravitate towards them. They bring us a lot of energy and a lot of joy.
Yeah.
But as Erin pointed out, what we don't feel joyful about, what we don't feel energy for, are things that other people on our team do. And the idea that you can actually go to somebody and ask them to help, which is in business can often be seen as a weakness, that if you actually have to ask for help.
Oh, yes.
That's no good. But this brings forward things that you maybe didn't even think were valuable because they're so natural to you and you just do them. And they just feel so normal and so natural. And now we're talking about them as geniuses.
Yeah.
Right? So that feels like a whole different contribution level that you can make to your organization. And it feels different to go to somebody and say, okay, like I'm great at galvanizing, but I really, really need somebody to help me with the enablement piece.
Yes.
Like my team, I need them to feel like they're getting actual help and that the obstacles are being moved out of the way for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not high in that. That's actually a frustration for me, but you're great at it.
Yes.
So I'd love it if you could come and help me with that. And it feels different than saying, I can't do that. It feels more like, this is my piece and I'm great at this. You're great at that. Help me with this.
Well, and that's often the case, right? Often people, like in your own genius, you don't even recognize it as a genius because it's something that comes so naturally to you.
Right.
So like for galvanizing for you, Julie, I think it's such a natural thing for you and it doesn't deplete your energy. Like it's just, I mean, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easy for you. It just comes out.
It is.
Versus somebody who really just doesn't have that, looking at that being like, how do you, like, there's so much value there. Like, you're amazing at that. How do you do that? And for you, it's, I just do.
Yeah.
Right?
And
just
that would
seeing
be totally
that value.
opposite. No, you're totally right. Because if we talk about tenacity, and I said that many times, when I get in the time of the year that I have to go through and do the budget, which I have to be alone in front of my computer,
Your spreadsheets.
my spreadsheet, nobody to galvanize or excite about anything. It's hard.
Yeah.
And I get drained.
Yeah.
But I have to do, that's a part of my job that I have to do. It has to stay with me. But then I know that through my day of that budget, I'm going to put some galvanizing moment. I have to go and talk to people.
Yeah.
I have to go out there because that brings that energy. So it's very powerful when you understand those pieces and that.
Exactly.
Yes.
That kind of planning is brilliant because even though you're being depleted by the piece that you're doing right now, you're inserting pieces deliberately and intentionally that bring you so much joy and energy, and then that lifts you back up out of that, oh, I'm so drained.
That's it. Yeah. That poor me, I want to be in the corner. And life is bad. That's almost all you feel as depending on your genius. But from all the work you've done with many companies, what would you, like, is there a learning or something that is kind of a repeating offender, if we call it, or something that you noticed?
So one of the things that, I'm not sure if this is what you're asking, but one of the things that I think has been a really big learn for me is that we talk about it as sort of a flow, and that there's this, in any project or initiative, you go in this order. I think that one thing that's misunderstood a lot is that, so you're at the beginning and you're done then. And then after the ideas have come out, invention is done. But that actually isn't really the way that initiatives work.
Goes back and forth.
Right, it does go back and forth. And let's say that you're in the enablement phase and there's a place where it's not quite working as expected. You might still have to go back to wonder and say, okay, wait, now what isn't happening properly here? What do we really need to do here? And then what ideas do we have to get around that? And you'd still have to pick the right idea, and you'd still have to get people on board with that change. So there's a flow, but it's also got some back and forth.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like when you're in wonder, you're done after that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to mention that, because when you look at the working genius, you think that it's the first
Step by step by
Right.
step.
step by step. Yeah. Yeah. And you did, I think, mention in our last session that there's no better or more important genius, because I find that even back in time when there was like the colors, what color are you, and like there's always that, oh, this would be better in business and this and that, but I think that with all those type of assessment, there's always in the back people that could think that there's better, stronger, right or wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You need every single one of them. They're all valuable. They're all essential to getting anything done. And they're all part of everybody's job. Like there isn't a job that would have none, like that there would be none of one of them.
Right.
There isn't.
Yeah.
So
you need pieces of all of them.
Right.
So I think, I mean, like from how you're describing it, I think we can kind of see what the benefits would be in getting the right people in the right seat and whatnot. As you've kind of worked with a variety of different companies and kind of laid this over their workings, has there been any sort of common resistance that you run into?
I think what people generally resist is the idea of the frustrations. So there is a feeling, like we were saying, there is a feeling of guilt. Let's say that you're in sales, for example, and that galvanizing's at the bottom of yours, like your frustration is galvanizing. Does that mean that you wouldn't be a good salesperson? Not necessarily.
Right.
But they feel like that, and they're thinking, oh, if I'm identified as not a galvanizer, that's a frustration. My boss is going to think I can't do my job.
Right.
Like I'm not going to be good at that. So there's a lot of resistance against the frustrations, I would say.
Right.
Everybody is really happy to lean into their geniuses.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's an easy one.
Yeah. I think on the same end, and this is kind of what you were saying, to be able to establish that as a frustration, but it still feels like something you're good at. Like that was, I think, that was a struggle for me, right? Is so if there's these frustrations, let's say galvanizing.
Yes.
Galvanizing was a weird one for me because I thought galvanizing, I can do that. I do that. That's got to be, clearly that's going to be on the top of my list.
Yes.
But it's not. It's on the bottom. And to what you said, it's not that you can't do it. You might even be really good at it, but it's not what fuels your energy.
Yes.
It takes a lot of energy for you to do it and do it well.
Right. And the chances are that if you weren't good at it and you knew it needed to be an essential part of a job, you've worked really hard to get good at it.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So you've actually learned it. But this assessment isn't about whether you're good at it. This assessment is about whether it brings you joy, whether it brings energy to your day.
And that's a very key point of it, I think.
To me, I'm blown away by this program, honestly, with the change I've seen, the language that is easy to use. And I mean, we use it as an organization, but if our listeners, our retailers, or anybody would like to jump on a program like this, like what would be the steps? Connecting with you.
Oh yeah, call me.
And to implement. And
absolutely. But what they would be looking at would be actually doing the assessment.
Okay.
So there's an official assessment that comes along with
so
the
that they
working
can
genius.
actually identify debriefing, because it is important to understand that not everybody experiences assessments the same way. There are some misunderstandings. People can not express themselves in the way that they intended to in an assessment. Assessments are very cut and dried.
Yeah, interpretation of it. Yeah,
Right,
that's why they need you to have that conversation after to go through.
They need to, just to be absolutely sure they're in the best fit possible for them. And then the next step would be to look at the roles that they have on the team, and are there roles that specifically spend a lot of their time in one genius or another, and then looking at it through the lens of who matches.
And we'll put the details in the
we can put them
notes
in the podcast
connect.
notes.
because that's a fun tool, and working with Margot is
Well, and I think we can see value in this for
fun. I'm galvanizing now.
Yeah.
This is fun.
It's going to be great.
It's fun for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it really doesn't matter what organization you're part of or how big or small your organization is. If you're in retail, if you're developing a brand, if you're a broker, a distributor like ourselves.
Yes.
And because we've applied it in a variety of different departments, right? Like it's a framework that you can apply to all sorts of different
For sure.
avenues and spots to get those gains, that benefit. And it's fairly easy. It's fairly simple. I mean, you mentioned that,
absolutely.
and I think for Julie, I think you were able to grab onto it right away, and you loved it. And I was at the beginning, I'm not going to lie, like I was kind of following along. I'm like, I'm going to get there.
Wondering.
There's something.
You were wondering.
It's true.
That's what I was.
It's true.
No,
You're right, actually.
You're just wondering. And I was like, I got the idea. We have Margot, and let's go for it.
Yeah.
But it's fun. But even for your personal life, I mean, it's fantastic for everything. Because
the application there too,
who you are, and then you can the genius of your partner too, and the frustration, then the dialogue. It just opened that easy communication.
Yeah,
it makes it easier.
I've listened a lot to the Working Genius podcast. So Patrick Lencioni and his team has this podcast about Working Genius.
Yes.
You would be amazed how much you can talk about Working Genius. But one of the things that often comes up is, how it impacts their personal life and how with their life partner, how that's affected, or between them and their kids and whatnot. So like there's so much that you can learn from this. Yes. And I think develop how you communicate and understand, what doesn't bring you joy and why that is, and how
and why you get grumpy. That was the latest podcast.
Yeah,
grumpiness. I was like, oh, that's interesting. But it all makes sense. So, well, thank you, Margot. We're going to go through some rapid fire questions. A little fun, light.
I'm scared.
So, a question we often ask our guests: if you could pick any other career, could be completely unrelated to what you're doing now. What do you think it would be, or what could it have been?
So I really feel like I'm in my sweet spot. But so if I had to choose something else, I would probably choose counseling or psychology.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. When you work with Margot, you definitely have that.
That's innate in Margot.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you're definitely in your genius and all around of those.
This is a compliment, right?
100%.
Just checking.
Absolutely. We'll give you another easy one that is one of our favorite too. We always like to know we're a distributor of natural products. So what was your first or favorite natural health product?
Can I say two?
Absolutely.
Okay, so right now my total favorite is BioSteel because
ours too.
I am recovering from pneumonia, and it was actually you guys.
Oh yeah,
you guys suggested for hydration that I should be trying that. I did, and I'm in love with it.
Good.
I love BioSteel.
Thank you. Awesome.
And in terms of skincare, I have decided that Antipodes is
yes,
love that product.
Awesome.
All of those products.
Yeah, that's two of my favorite too. So.
Yeah.
Yes, we have a lot in common.
You guys are kindred spirits.
Exactly.
Lastly, what's your favorite thing to do to relax?
Relax.
Mm-hmm.
What's relax?
Right?
No, I have a puppy that I'm madly in love with and playing with him.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
What's the name of your puppy again?
Sherlock.
Love the name. Yeah, it's a cutie, definitely.
Yeah,
they bring joy to our life, right?
True.
It makes you disconnect because whatever happened in your day, you come in the house.
Yeah, they don't care. They're so happy to see you.
Yeah, they must be galvanized. Honestly, that has to be. Amazing. But thank you so much. We're so happy that we had you coming and talk to us and sharing the Working Genius. We've been working along with you, but it was great to share with our listeners that tool, and hopefully some people will connect because that changed a lot for us. For sure.
Yeah, huge impact. Thanks so much, Margot.
Thank you guys.
All right, moving into NTPL, or New to Purity Life.
Well, today won't be just new to Purity Life, but there's a subject or products or category that I wanted to shed some light because there's a big AG1 out there.
That's
and
right.
I talk about that before. But AG1 is basically that greens that have all the mushroom, the antioxidants, and all in.
Pretty heavy on social.
Very heavy.
Very heavy on
very
social.
Heavy. Everything you open, Instagram, if you listen to podcasts, it's always coming. You listen to podcasts and they have people that talk about their products.
Yeah.
Not that it's a bad product, but there's a lot in our industry and we need to take that space. There's a lot of options. And when we look at the cost of that AG1, I don't know if you know the cost of it. I've sort of calculated yesterday.
Oh, yeah? Let's hear what you got.
Yes. So without having that first time buyer, it's about $119 to $133 a month.
Whoa.
Yes. So that's premium, but
you could be really into it.
Well, yeah, but people pay for that. And why I want to bring that up is, while sometimes people might see greens as a luxury,
right?
People out there are going for it.
Yeah.
So what I would like to see more is in our store to gather your end cap and have your greens aligned with different options, different price point, and be very vocal about it. Because if they don't buy your greens, there will be buying AG1.
Yeah.
And it's
we
easy.
can capture that demand.
We can actually capture that demand. And why greens are so popular and came back to as being a trend is basically because it's kind of a one-stop shop. We talk about, the base of essential fatty acid and your heart health product that is sort of the base of your house. But greens contain your antioxidant. If you don't eat your vegetables enough, it's there.
Yeah, good vitamin mineral base, just the nutrients across the board. Yeah,
absolutely. And it just overall, I think that when you drink green, you just feel overall good, that you're doing good for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So today, I wanted to share with our people who listener, two brand. We have BioSteel and we have Organic Tradition.
Yes.
Two different brand, two different look. Organic Tradition, we have them in gusset bags. Yep. They did launch lately flavors with their greens.
This is pretty new, their greens. They've got these super greens. We've got pineapple coconut in that bag that you're referencing.
Cucumber melon.
And pear.
Yes.
And they're all, sorry, go ahead.
Yes, I was to ask, have you tried one of them?
I have, actually.
Yes?
The pineapple coconut is the one that I tried, and they did a good job. It is hard to flavor greens. They did a good job. It was quite tropical.
It's awesome. And I remember many years ago when I started in the health industry and the first grass that I drank, because I call it grass, that was literally grass.
Because that's what it tastes like.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that some people have a stigma, and I think that what AG1 did is they created a tasteful product.
Right.
And I think that Organic Tradition really nailed that.
Yes.
Anybody that, even if you're not used to the natural product, you will really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And Organic Tradition is known to have true active ingredients in their package. So it's that therapeutic quantity.
It's not just, throw some lipstick on it. We'll say it's greens and go ahead. They're very, very careful about making sure that it's a therapeutic product, that they're using the right ingredients, they're sourcing them well, and all of that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can please different palate because of the different flavor they have.
Yeah.
Yes. And on the other side, the other brand that we have here is BioSteel. They do have different flavor too. I really like in the BioSteel the recovery ingredients that they have in there. So you don't need to be an athlete again, but if you exercise, it's a good way to have your greens, but on top of that, having an added benefit to that recovery. And lastly, what I wanted to compare is a bit of a price point. So for both brands, you're looking at, at $39.99, $40 for a month's supply.
That's retail?
Retail, when you compare to $119, $133. Yeah. So there's a huge opportunity out there. We talked about that in our trends talk before. Yeah. But I would like to see in store absolutely an end cap.
I think you're right on the money. I think opportunity is the exact word, right? If we know that these brands are out there putting all of that into social to get this all in their faces, that just means people are thinking about it. So if they're walking past your store or going along your website and they come across something that's the same sort of idea, it's just as easy to capture that sale and take it for yourself and take it for one of these great brands.
Absolutely. And it just hit me when I was walking in the office the other day and I heard people saying, hey, I'm tempted to buy AG1. I said, whoa, wait a minute. We need to talk about
Let
this.
me educate you.
We need to talk about this, people. But seriously, there's a lot of opportunity. It's not a trend that is to go anywhere. I think that people are looking for better for you.
Yeah. I think it's a trend that's on the uptake.
It is,
We're on the bottom of
absolutely.
it,
It's good for kids. And in store, I would advise to have some passive demos.
Yes.
So reach out for the brand, reach out to us for BioSteel. We can get you some samples. Because key with those greens is to get people to try it. Because I'm sure there's still people with stigma of flavorful, difficulty to digest or take it in.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to sample it with different things. You don't have to just sample it with water either. You can throw it into some juice. You can make a smoothie with it. There's lots of opportunity to make it super yummy, even alone.
Yeah, you can have on your table for hardcore health food and for people who are just starting. So you can mix it with a bit of juice or just straight water.
Yeah.
So that's it for What's New to Purity Life. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe and send us your feedback at marketing@puritylife.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at PurityLifeOutProductLP and myself, JD_Girl Power.
And you can find me at Erin G. Macklin.
And join us next week because we're going to have a panel of women from Purity Life to celebrate International Women's Day.